Hello and welcome to another episode of the Black and White Thinking podcast. How's it going?
All right.
I thought I'd said the wrong podcast then when you were looking at me.
How's it going with you?
Yeah, I'm alright, thanks.
Sun shining?
Yeah, having a good day?
Yeah.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know, the sun does make a massive difference. To me, it's every time I walk around the house and I see how the plants are doing, I'm like, although to be fair, they do need it. I need to water them properly again. But yeah, sun shining, bloody pollen's doing what it needs to do. But I'm hoping Dad's going to have a barbecue as we're about to go there, so hope that's ready for us. Did I tell you I was doing a rotisserie chicken yesterday on the barbecue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. You made some Jamaican patties.
I did. They were
unreal. Amazing. So good. So yeah, nice weekend so far. Although this comes out on a Thursday, but yeah. Okay, so this week we are discussing
stand-up comedy versus movies.
Yeah. I'm proud of this one. This was my idea. Because I thought it'd be interesting to know what you pick. Because it sounds like a very easy task until you start to break it down. And as someone that's introduced stand-up comedy into my life, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, interesting.
Well, you watch a lot more movies than you did as well.
Yeah, I do. I do.
You watch a lot more quality movies than you used to.
Excuse you.
Well, I just mean like some classics that you probably would never have seen.
Yeah. But I watched movies a lot anyway before, but this is ridiculous because like I'm sat looking at our little tub for when we do our reviews, and we do need to do some new reviews. We've not even been adding into it, and it's still quite a lot.
Like even recently watching some French films.
Yeah, Amelie, still can't get over that. And actually, we need to talk about that. Absolutely, yeah. The French ones have been good as well. Delicatessen was weird but interesting.
Micmacs.
Micmacs, I was working, so because it's in French, I love the music because I remember like I started working, watched a little bit, and then looked down and was like, "Oh crap, I've missed bits." And then all I could feel then as I was doing my work was because I love listening to music as I work anyway. So like it really just motivated me. So I really like that.
Well, the ones we watched recently are all the same director, producer duo of Junet and Caro. And our way into that was because Jean-Pierre Junet directed the fourth Aliens movie.
Right.
One of the actors he always uses, Dominic Pignon, was in that.
Yeah.
And he's been in all of the French films I've watched. Like he's in Delicatessen, Amelie, and Micmacs.
Yeah.
He's in.
All different characters as well. Like he's a great
but always his own twist on them.
Yeah.
And you hadn't really watched much stand-up comedy, had you?
No, because so my thing's always been I get why people find things funny, but I've never met anyone that gets me the way you do. So whenever people would suggest stuff, like I've got a friend Isla. Isla would recommend stuff, like she has a similar sense of humor to me, or at least it gets me, I guess. So she might have suggested stuff that I would have watched and laughed at, but in general, anything that people recommended in the past, I would not sit and laugh. And then all of a sudden, we start watching Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Christina P. Now those are like huge comics. And then we go to, like I was literally thinking, we've not seen, well, you did last month, but I've not seen Colin Geddes and Aaron McCann live in a couple of months, which I'm sad about. And I'm like, what is going on? Because don't get me wrong, like you watch their podcast, for example, and I think the podcast is good.
No, I love it.
You love it, but I think it's geared towards guys. Whereas when you watch,
you'd be surprised.
I just mean like the types of jokes they make are very like boy jokes.
But the show at the waterfront was a very mixed crowd.
Yeah.
Like there was like younger women there, like just groups of younger women.
But I think that's because you see them doing different types of comedy. So
oh no, it was all. a similar vein.
Was it?
But
that's interesting.
Yeah, I took my uncle to the Bomb Squad live.
Yeah.
Who's an older gentleman without giving his age away, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it, to the point where he even went and watched a few episodes of the Bomb Squad.
Yeah, he was even saying last week, he was like, oh, I need to catch up. And I was like, oh, I love this influence you've had on us. Because again, vice versa, from movies to comedy and back. I think what I like about the way you pick out comedians for me is that, yes, we might talk about Aaron and Colin like having like toilet humor, for example, but they are genuinely hilarious and nice people. And when you look at like how many times have we been in a taxi going to like a show, whether it was a Limelight or at the Lavery's, yeah, where we've been talking to the taxi drivers about comedy here, and they're like, oh, I might have heard or didn't know about this, and then they're like, oh, we'll have to give it a go. I think there's such a talent here, but
it's come a long way too. Like it's, to me, it's much more relatable now, and it's not just about a perceived divide in Northern Ireland, aimed at one group or another, or how the two groups are different and blah blah blah. Whereas, I mean, there's always going to be a bit of that, because to some degree, for a large part of people's lives, there isn't any mix, and to this day, still parts of people's life is very segregated. But I think less so now, and people care less about that. Whereas there's much more of a common ground in comedy here nowadays, and I think the standard is just better. Whereas you might have had a few comics who made it here, but they were still very local, and it didn't translate very well. Or if they did, it was in England. And it was English people, or laughing about the situation here. It was like laughing at us. Whereas I think that the comedians here now, they're much more attuned to comedy globally, and it's just better. Like, to me, the standard is better. It's funnier. The jokes are better.
But even, who was that guy that we saw for Christmas? Is it Reggie?
Reginald D. Hunter.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But again, that's a comedian not from here that understands the landscape here and can make those jokes. I think there's also an element of the comedians here, when you see people from America, like big comedians, hyping some of these guys we're talking about now, you see why they're hyping them. But then you see people that do come here, that the ones that really get it, I think a good comedian is someone that can pick bits from everywhere. And
well, I think Reg's show, or like, he cut his teeth in the UK, and he's just a very smart guy. And like, he made a joke about Coleraine. Like, how many comedians, even from the UK, would know the country that well? Like, he's been coming here for probably the guts of 30 years, so like, he knows it's much more nuanced than just one side versus the other, as is any place. I love Reg. His show was brilliant. Really funny. And like, I love stand-up comedy, and like, there are comedians that I love and will always watch, and like, I really enjoy a comedian, like, watching their comedy special. And although there are more comedians putting out more comedy specials, like, the good ones will always be that, like, be special. And there are still ones who are, to me, are head and shoulders above the rest.
Who was the guy that you loved that died? His name's completely... The one that makes a Russian joke.
Who's that?
The one that died that you loved. He had cancer. Norm.
Oh, Norm.
How could you forget about Norm?
Yeah, Norm Macdonald.
I would have never known about Norm if it wasn't for you. But I think even just some of those like older comedians that you loved, and watching the ones you've introduced me to that I love now, and where like I've seen a lot of them talk about the likes of Norm and
Yeah.
some of the older comedians, and for me that's fascinating because it's a world. Sometimes I come across stuff where I'm like, my two worlds are colliding, but in a way that I never even
Yeah,
expected.
Norm is really one of a kind.
Mm.
Like he had such an interesting mind.
Mm.
Um, I mean, he just had such a crazy way of writing jokes.
Mm.
Um, and like comedians now still talk about him with such reverence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Norm is incredible, but yeah, there's nobody like him, and there's nobody really like him before or since.
Mm.
Like I see touches of his, or people sort of, you can see an influence beyond them, but still
Mm.
nobody could really do it the way that he did.
Yeah.
Um, but even like comedians now who have sort of got big recently, like Shane Gillis.
Yeah.
Like we watched his recent special,
Yeah.
and it was brilliant.
Yeah. It was.
Like some of the jokes about his uncle Danny were incredible.
Yeah.
And I think
Like proper belly laughs.
yeah, like he became a bit of a target by certain people in the online world. It was sort of like, yeah, I think he even talked about it himself, or no, it was another comedian was talking about how he was there and Shane Gillis met this other comedian, and they met, and he was like, yeah, you were shitting on me online, and she was like, oh, I didn't even know it was you, I was just hopping on the bandwagon,
As
which is
a
what people do now. But
yeah.
and then he got sacked from SNL, and they had him back as like a host recently.
Oh, I didn't know he was sacked.
He got sacked before he even got to be on it because
Wow.
somebody dug up a joke he made years ago online,
Yeah.
which is just silly anyway. And I think people forget that they're comedians.
Yeah.
They'll make a joke out of anything, and it's
Yeah.
like I feel like I remember Mel Brooks years ago talking about how he made jokes about like the Nazis and that sort of stuff because that's how you beat it.
Mm.
Like you beat that by laughing at it.
Yeah.
And I think comedy and laughing about stuff is how we deal with things in our everyday life anyway.
Yeah.
Like something tragic
Yeah.
happens, like
Yeah.
you make a joke about it.
Yeah.
Like we've all been to funerals where like people are laughing,
Yeah.
and it's like it's how you get through things.
Yeah.
And I think at times the world nowadays is so serious about everything that they forget these people are making jokes.
Yeah.
And
But I think that's also where I respect comedians even more now because I look at like the work that I do and my passion for being creative. I never thought I was creative, and then all of a sudden look at these people out there that like the podcast, like we've talked about, like they're having podcasts, doing shows, trying different things. Like for me, that is so inspirational because again, look at like we can come back to movies in a second, but movies, you have to be a particular type of person and look a particular way to be accepted. So either you're the token or you're the beautiful person. There's kind of no in between, and you're picked by one person. Whereas what I love about comedians and comedy in general is that you can put something out on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, just record something yourself. Like one of my cousins went viral. He made some like Bemba joke where he then starts talking in an English accent. And I think he just posted it on like Twitter or something like that. And then it was being passed around in WhatsApp groups. Like I think there's, like you're saying, when people laugh about things that we live through day and day, you forget that we all make jokes in our homes.
mm-hmm.
Jokes that if you left the house, you're probably not going to say. Like you like to make a joke about being an orphan, and a couple of times you've done that, and people are like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, like you don't." Sometimes people don't know how to react to stuff, but like you're saying, comedy brings people together. Comedy is like laughter. Laughter's healing, and to be able to do that in different ways. I think I know in comedy you'll have different genres, but movies you pick like if I'm in the mood for a romance or something in terms of I don't know action. There are all these different genres, but then you get comedians, and yes, they all specialize in something else. But I think comedy is just a universal language. You could get a
Well, look
brave,
at Kel Tony
yeah,
from start to finish. Like you have the
yeah,
whole gamut of things. Like the one, the sort of blow up recently, like Casey Rocket. The guy, he like, I love him. Like, he's so silly and just throws in random lines. Like, he'll drop in a Maybach music or
Wait, was he
like,
the one that came on with the eyelashes the other
yeah,
week? Yeah, he's funny.
and like, I know you're not a big fan, but like, I love William Montgomery.
But I think that's
Like,
why I respect, because he does come out with
and
some
then
funny
Cam
things.
Patterson, you know, and like Cam's mentor, like David Jolly, is brilliant, and he's now doing headline shows. And
the Asian guy, I love him.
Hans
Hans
Kim,
Kim,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's such a, like, even in that one show, like the live comedy podcast, and like you get to see the whole range of stuff, and
There's something for
from
everyone.
the brilliant to the absolutely horrendous. Somebody having a breakdown live on a stage. So yeah, there's definitely something for everybody, and I think, like, there's nothing like seeing comedy live and seeing somebody, because I suppose you don't really get that in you can't go and watch a film live. You can't see like your favorite movie performed live. Like, yes, you can go and see a play, but it's still not the same as seeing a movie. Whereas there's nothing like the energy of a live comedy show and seeing somebody react in the moment and making a joke out of something, you know, off the cuff. And um,
although, then on the flip side of that, I love how emotive movies can be. Because, like I've just said, if I'm in the mood for romance, if I want to feel a particular emotion, I can pick a specific movie that will bring that out of me. And like you said, you've introduced me to some classics and movies that I would have never watched.
like anything black and white.
No, it's not anything black and white. I'd have just gone, like, I trust you enough to know that if you're going to suggest something, you, Unc, and Michelle, like, if you guys suggest something, there's a reasoning behind that. Versus people, like, we watched Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I was like, I know Aunt Michelle loves that, but
Terrible.
that's one of those movies that everyone talks about, and I was like, I don't get
They've
it.
probably never seen it.
Like, I just don't, I don't get it.
They've maybe seen a clip or are slightly aware of it or the aesthetic of it or whatever, but it's terrible.
But there's something that, or maybe people have watched it, and there's something we're missing from it.
No.
There's something I've missed.
I feel like it's one of those that people, I would say more so women, feel like they're supposed to like, and therefore pretend that they do.
Yeah.
But even, you know, like, we went back and watched a load of Alfred Hitchcock movies.
Yeah.
And like, that's a good example of how a movie can, like, to me, the way that he creates tension, there's not really many can do it like that. Like, where you feel it in the pit of your stomach. You're like, oh, something terrible's gonna happen.
But even what are the brothers, Coen brothers?
The Coen brothers.
Again, the fact that was it that trend? Oh, what was the?
No, that was Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. But again, even looking at like the Coen brothers and Wes Anderson, the fact I can sit there now and go, you can see where people have been inspired by each other. I love that element of creativity, because in films you've got comedy, you've got love, you've got sorrow, you've got a bit of everything. But to be able to depict that with music, the visuals. I was talking about Civil War to, I think it was Adesola the other day, and I was saying incredible movie, but I wouldn't watch it again because it's just too close to home. How amazing is it that you've created something, that someone's created something like that just makes you go, oh,
yeah,
I can't deal with it.
I suppose Alex Garland is a modern director who's really good at creating a absolutely horrendous vibe in the movies. And you're like, oh no. Like,
how many have we watched today?
Like, I think I've probably seen Ex Machina at least 6 times.
Really?
And I still get that feeling of, oh no. And Annihilation's brilliant.
I've not seen that one yet.
We've watched Annihilation.
Oh, have we? Which one's Annihilation?
The one with the shimmer, as they call it.
Oh, okay.
Oscar Isaac's in it.
Yeah, I love Oscar Isaacs.
He's amazing. But you were saying about how, like, certain people with a certain look are in movies, but like the Coen brothers and Wes Anderson, they're not classically like the classic movie actor aesthetic.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's why they don't win
Um,
as many awards as they should win as well, because they don't fit the norm.
and even the likes of like Gene Hackman in the Royal Tenenbaums,
Yeah.
like his movie career is incredible, and like some of the roles he's had are just so memorable.
Yeah.
Like movies you'd go back and watch again. Um, like I think I've always loved stand-up comedy, but I think it was sort of very like when I was younger, it was really like Billy Connolly. But I've always had such a breadth of different movies. Like my dad was into like war films.
Yeah.
Um, and then like my uncle and my brother were always into like sci-fi movies. And then like sitting around with a copy of Empire magazine talking about movies coming out and movies that were out and
Yeah.
different actors and different directors and
God, you're really good with your actors and directors. I can't even remember that some of the names of the movies we watched, and you're like, this is who was in it. This is who did the soundtrack. Like you gave Twilight a chance because
the music guy from the Coen brothers did the music. But I still feel like there's nothing quite like a wee trip to the cinema to see a new film.
Yeah.
Um,
We do need to. We need to go again. We had like a little period where we went every week.
there isn't that much on at the minute. I want to see the new um, Planet of the Apes movie just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, but even just on a more low key scale, like Irish cinema, like there's so many brilliant movies from here that don't really get like the massive mainstream coverage. Like Irish actors have always been, you know, massive stars, and but there's so more locally made movies that are brilliant. Like there's a movie called A Bad Day for the Cut, which is a brilliant revenge movie, and it's very of here, but it's it could have mass appeal. But I think it just gets movies like that often get lost in the mire of so many other movies and so much choice. Um, and there's even like a brilliant sci-fi movie from here called Grabbers. Russell Tovey's in it, and it's just a brilliant little premise, and it's funny, and again, a movie that probably 99% of people have never even heard of, let alone seen.
Well, we went to the short film
Brilliant.
with my friend. So my friend Amy put on a few short films, but it was by women or women directors and was it directors and producers or just directors?
Like writers, directors, producers,
and that was
all
incredible.
From the island of Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
And I think some of them are maybe like 1 or 2 minutes. It's so impactful in those 1 or 2 minutes. I guess that comes from the tradition in Ireland of storytelling, being part of culture here, and
literally got goosebumps even thinking about.
I think that if I were to pick one and only have one forever, it would probably still be film. And yes, you can get, there's tragedy and comedy, and it can evoke different emotions and stories. I just feel like, for me, if I were to pick one over the other and only one to have one, it would have to be film. And just because there's so much and so many different things you can see, from the likes of Alien and Blade Runner to Amelie or, Grabbers or
Twilight.
like Local Hero.
Yeah, Local Heroes.
Local Heroes considered a bit of a cult classic.
What's the one Leon?
Leon.
I really want to watch again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I genuinely never loved a movie so much that I've thought about it so much, and yet I've not seen it again.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think about it more often than like is even reasonable for my mind.
It's a great story, great characters, great direction.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Luc Besson's done some really good movies. Like he directed one of my favorite movies, Fifth Element, and two vastly different movies.
Yeah.
Leon, very gritty, about an assassin who takes on this little orphan girl.
Yeah.
Whereas Fifth Element's like a space opera type movie with big budget, great special effects, and so I just feel like as much as I love stand-up comedy and always have from when I was a kid, I've always loved movies, and I guess I would have to come down on the side of movies.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, for a lot of what you've said, and for me, it's the different elements of what you get from movies as well, and the different emotions and the different elements to movies that I appreciate even more now than I used to, especially in the line of work that I do, because my job is to capture an emotion in a short space of time and get people to buy into that. And we watched that comedy with Richard Pryor. I
Oh, hear no evil, see no evil.
Yeah,
See no evil, hear no evil, whichever
yeah,
way around.
loved it. But for me, comedians can go into movies. Comedians are so good at what they do that I think they can adapt easier than actors trying to go into something like comedy. I think comedy is such a specific, special genre that movies as a whole, like it's like, yeah, it's even weird in my mind going, I can't believe I love comedy as much as I do now. But I think,
But even the likes of the comedians that I like who are now acting and stuff,
yeah,
like Santino,
yeah,
Andrew Santino
that's so
was
true.
amazing in Dave, and I've seen him in movies. Like he
Mm.
stole the scenes in that Kevin Hart movie, Me Time, as the
Yeah,
dad
he
who
was good
was
in that.
snorting his son's
Yeah,
ADHD medication.
yeah.
Um,
Well, the fact like he's acting now with Zac Efron, like fair enough, and John Cena,
yeah,
like maybe that movie wasn't great, but when you look at the casts that these people are,
Bobby Lee and
yeah, probably he's great.
what's it? Magnum.
Yeah.
But I mean, Bobby Lee's been doing movies for years
Mm.
since like Harold and Kumar and stuff. But even like short films, like Bobby Lee's in one Death and Ramen,
Right.
phenomenal.
Oh, I'm not
He's
seeing it.
phenomenal in it. As you say, like comedians can like cross over and do movies, and
Mm.
if you're wanting a laugh, you can always watch a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I feel like for me it would have to be, if I had to get rid of one and keep the other, I would keep movies all day long.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That was do you know what? Because now I'm like, we should do like a little evening screen of some short films because yeah, we do. I think we're really lucky at some of the movies that are available. I know we watch movies all the time anyway, but I don't think we watch a lot of short movies.
Well, another comedian I like, Joe List, has done a couple of shorts that are really good.
Mm.
Um, Bobby Lee's done a good few shorts.
Mm.
But Death and Ramen is a recent one that was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Um,
So the next part of this, since we've agreed on movies, thank you by the way, yay, is we're gonna do an Am I the A-hole? Oh, this is a nice short one. Here you go. Oh, you're gonna be happy with this. Right. My in laws, 65 female, 70 male, organised my kitchen, although I, 28 female, specifically stated not to. I feel my privacy is violated and I don't know what to do. Thoughts. So she goes, I told them not to do it 2 weeks ago repeatedly for 3 days when they kept telling me that my kitchen is badly organised, and they made a good job organising their daughter's kitchen very well. I kept turning them down nicely. But because my husband, 35 male, agreed with them, oh, I told him that we can do it the way we like it when I am back from my holiday. Then I left to visit my parents and they managed to organise my kitchen without my consent. I feel infuriated and also embarrassed that I care. But it's our kitchen, not theirs, and I said no, therefore it should have been a no. And my husband and I could have done it instead of them. How should I react? They only visit us 2-3 times a year and they stay for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, bloody hell. I don't want to keep a grudge, but I feel like they went behind my back to show power and an upper hand. They have had a strong tendency to give advice and keep telling us what to do, and this is the tip of the iceberg for me. Any thoughts?
just let it go, man.
Really? Let it go? Let it go in what sense? Because my advice would be just rearrange it back however you want it. And
Well, yeah, fair enough, that too. But I mean, she's reading too much into it.
there's probably more to it than that, and however she's feeling. Because there you go, they stay for 2 weeks at a time. Staying for 2 weeks with your in-laws, no matter how much you love your in-laws, that
I mean, how, you know, So they organised their kitchen. What's the problem?
Well, she's saying that she thinks that they were trying to show that they've got the upper hand and show some like power, which she might be reading too much into, or she's just not giving us loads of context, and there's more to it than. So that little sentence can say a lot. And again, if she said no, don't do something, I think the issue there as well is with her husband. Even if her husband agreed with his parents, we don't know who does most of the cooking, but let's just go by typically what we find. And typically, it's the woman that will be in the kitchen. So for you, I've had to go. I have no say anymore. However you want things to be. Like I walk in sometimes, and yes, I like organize bits just so it's in groups. However, you're in the kitchen more than I am. So however you want things to be, I have to suck it up.
Yeah, because certain things are easier for me to reach if they're higher up.
Exactly.
But for all we know, her in-laws could have had a great system.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe she's just raging she didn't do it that way.
Yeah. I think if she's that bothered, there's no point in making a big issue of it when there's not a big issue to be made.
Like, how bad could it be? I mean, and so what? They moved a few things about.
But I
Just
think
move
she's
it
talking
back.
about the principle of
Yeah,
her
but
saying no and them going against her wishes, all of them.
then so just let it go.
And my version of letting go is rearrange it back however you want it.
Fine. Then the next time they come, they'll do it again and just let it go again. Then move it back the way you want it.
Yeah.
Like, why let it bother you that much?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, is it worth it?
If somebody said to me, "I'm going to rearrange your kitchen," I'd be like, "Happy days."
Would you?
I don't care.
Yeah, you're nice. Whereas I'd be like, no, you're not. Don't touch.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how big is the kitchen? How much could they have really rearranged and moved about to the point where you notice and it bothers you? Probably not that much. Like, what's the move about? A few pots and pans, some cutlery and plates.
That was like that episode of Modern Family that we watched. Some like you remember like with Gloria and Cam and the rearranging of the kitchen. People are particular about certain things. I think there are whether this is about the kitchen or about the principle of the fact that she stated she didn't want something to be done, which is like a separate issue. I think the fact there is again, your in-laws are your in-laws. You are married. You knew what you were. Hopefully, you knew what you were getting into when you married into this family. So, is there a point in causing arguments over something that doesn't need to keep going on when you can either say something about it and make it clear to your husband, or I think she's right. She's valid to be upset, but how she deals with it is then where you go, are you an adult or not? Because it's your home. If you're not happy, put it back or rearrange it however you want to do it. Because she's also talking about, oh, me and my husband would have done it.
This isn't about the kitchen, by the way.
Yeah.
This is not about the kitchen.
But that's what I'm saying, if you read between the lines.
Yeah, so what she should focus on is why she's mad. Because to me, it sounds like it's not about the kitchen. It's about her relationship with her in-laws and her husband.
Yeah.
So I think maybe she needs to worry about that more than worrying about the kitchen.
Yeah. That's a very good, succinct point like that. So ask yourself why you're so bothered and then deal with that.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Brilliant. That was nice and quick. See? It wasn't too bad, was it? Right. Yeah, you guys keep liking, subscribing. Send us any questions if you've got any questions or you've got dilemmas of your own. We will happily give you some advice because between Miss Emotions and Mr. Logic, you will get a good balance of whatever advice you need. But yeah, we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Fabulous. Bye.